You're going to showboat, knock down the shot.
For what his value is, he doesn't equate to winning basketball.
When you're talking about the greatest of greats, that's what you have to do. You have to nitpick.
We'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see you in the playoffs.
All right, guys. So everybody that is now watching on our recording, everybody that is now watching as we're trying out here on TikTok Live, we're going live with the podcast, and we're just going to be breaking down some of the NBA trade deadline events, essentially, that happened all throughout the day. So, Jarrett, I know this was a very interesting one, and obviously everybody probably wants to hear us start with probably the most noteworthy one. So it happened. You know, after a weeks of hearing all this stuff about James Harden, Philadelphia, Ben Simmons, was he finally going to be on the move? It happened. So what was your take when you got the Woj bomb, that Shams bomb, when it came across your phone?
All I can say is emoji eyes. Emoji. I was shocked. It was crazy. As we started to get closer to the deadline, it seemed more and more like it was going to happen. So I wasn't like too overly shocked when it happened, but at the same time, just a deal of that magnitude to happen is crazy. I mean, the second I started to see the like Woj tweets about Harden doesn't want to, like, he wants out of Brooklyn, but he doesn't want to be the guy to ask like for a second time to get out of wherever he is. We've never seen something like this. I think I put out a tweet. I'm like, when was the last time we've seen a superstar on 3 different teams in less than 2 seasons?
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen something like
this.
No,
and that does, history. I mean, in my mind, it's kind of like if this is almost the last kind of stop in my mind for Harden, as in like, dude, if you can't make it work now with Embiid, you're starting to become kind of, for me, in that Kyrie range where, hey man, you're the problem. Like, you can't make it work. Couldn't make it work with Chris Paul. Obviously, way back in the beginning when he was with KD and Russell Westbrook, can't really blame him for it because he was more kind of a 6-man. He wasn't a star yet. But at this point, he's been with enough stars in the league that it's like, dude, you're the problem now. You're not making it work. Like, what's going on here? So it's going to be interesting to see. And I don't know what you thought about the trade. So kind of I wrote down everything that kind of went into it. So Brooklyn's getting Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, 2 first-rounders. Philadelphia's getting James Harden and Paul Millsap. So what do you think of kind of the return that the Nets got for James Harden?
So for the Nets, I really like this trade. They got a lot more than I thought they'd get. I love the acquisition of Seth Curry. It gives them another shooter that can draw guys away from Kevin Durant, you really don't have to draw guys away from Ben Simmons. Andre Drummond gives them some size inside. It's a really good trade. It helps them a little bit on the depth side of things. I know Joe Harris could be out for a long period of time, so Seth Curry kind of fits in that role. And in my opinion, Seth Curry's an upgrade over Joe Harris. So imagine getting Joe Harris back. You have a lot more shooters on that roster. So I really, really like. I think, especially in the long term, I think the Nets could potentially win this trade over Philly.
So to me, I really like the Seth Curry pickup. I think he's one of the most underrated shooters in this league because obviously we compare him to his brother, who's the best shooter in NBA history. So it's a hard comparison to ever live up to. But Seth Curry is one of the best perimeter shooters in this league, and he's turned into more of that. He's more of a playmaker as well. I love this. I mean, for me, this move I think Philadelphia and Brooklyn both feel like they won the trade. I think they both will wake up tomorrow and realize that they like their roster better than what they have now. And when you're looking at Philadelphia, they were getting nothing. Like, they were getting nothing out of Ben Simmons. Obviously, they were getting a lot of Seth Curry. Andre Drummond was an okay, second big man. But they were getting nothing from Ben Simmons, and they get to add James Harden. And if you're Brooklyn, you're looking at is hey, James Harden didn't want to be here. He was going to walk anyways. And you got Ben layup Simmons, which – who knows how it's going to work in that system and how it's going to work with him playing alongside KD and Kyrie. I think Kyrie can only play 10 games out of the last 31 or something insane. Jeez. So basically just KD whenever he comes back. But man, I don't know. This is only time will tell with this trade. And I know a big part of this is James Harden is he's picking up his player option for next season. So he won't be a free agent after this season. So Philadelphia will have him for at least 2. So no, that was a huge part of the trade, especially for Daryl Morey and the 76ers. So
I will say one thing that concerns me about this trade, like obviously if you're a team that's bringing in a superstar that is in his prime or pretty damn close to it, in most cases, you should win that trade. So in Philly's case, getting James Harden, especially, like, he shouldn't clash in terms of play style with Joel Embiid at all. Yeah. I think it's going to be a really good pairing.
It will. I agree. 100%.
I don't like I feel like they gave up a lot, which is why I feel like the Nets came out really good on this end of the
Yeah,
trade.
those
Like,
two
yeah,
first. Yeah, those two first really
well,
helped too.
not that, but
Good
like
trade.
I really love Seth Curry's fit with Joel Embiid on the Sixers. I really liked him there. I feel like putting shooters around Joel Embiid's one of the best things you can do
Oh
because you
yeah.
can really spread the floor. And thought Seth Curry was a big part of it. So I just I don't like that Seth Curry being involved in that trade, but it was probably either him or Matisse
Maxi.
Thybulle is
No, Maxi is what I heard is who
or
they
Maxi
wanted. They
too.
really
Yeah.
wanted Maxi. And I knew I had a feeling Seth Curry was going to be a part of this trade just because obviously in an ideal world, Brooklyn would want Thibault and Maxi. I was happy to see that neither of those two had to be included in this trade to make
Yes.
it happen.
Yeah.
So I think Philly kind of looked at it as we love Seth Curry and especially Doc Rivers did not talked about enough trading away
Thanksgiving's gonna be
his
awkward.
son-in-law, trading him away. And a lot of people might not know that, but it's definitely an interesting part of this trade. But I think both these teams are going to be happy moving forward. And I don't know, man. I don't think to me this puts Brooklyn back up towards the top of the East because you don't know what you're going to get from Ben Simmons. We haven't seen him play in forever.
That's very true. That's very true. But it sounds like he's excited. He's already talking to KD. So I think we'll see him on the court within probably 2 to 3 weeks, I'd
Well, they need him.
imagine.
They need
Yes.
him. They've lost
Oh,
9
yeah.
straight. So they
Yeah.
they
And
need him,
LaMarcus Aldridge didn't travel with the team either. So
yeah.
imagine a Brooklyn Nets watching that game without that's like that one Knicks Bulls game that always does the rounds on social media where it's like, how loyal are you? I'm this loyal. Or is it Knicks Lakers? There's a
Yeah,
Bulls
yeah.
one too. Imagine watching a Nets game without Harden, KD, Kyrie, or LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, they might
Dude,
have Kyrie.
I saw a stat that said the big three for Brooklyn only played a total of 16 games together.
That's insanity.
16 games with those 3 guys on the roster. So I mean, I think it goes down as one of the biggest, like almost what ifs in
It
NBA
has to
history,
be.
where we talk about when James Harden last year, I remember when he got traded to Brooklyn, everybody's like, oh, they're the favorite. They're going to win a championship. They're going to win multiple championships. And now we're sitting here literally a year removed and he's gone. He's out the door. Like,
Yeah.
this is one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history in my mind. And definitely this was the highlight of the trade deadline, as a lot of people didn't know if it was going to go through. We heard a lot of rumors, but I want to move on to one that personally on TikTok, I've received a lot of kind of backlash from. A couple of the TikToks I made might have been misconstrued. So I want to talk about the Pacers and Kings trade that they made the other day. So the Pacers picked up Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Tristan Thompson, and the Kings got Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, and a 2nd-round pick. So when this went down, I made a TikTok that basically said I didn't get this trade for either of the teams. And a lot of people came to me and said that I was talking about Tyrese Halliburton like he was just, he was a bum. And in no way am I saying Tyrese Halliburton is a bum. The Pacers' problem has never been their role players. And I'm just looking at literally half their roster has been the focus of a lot of these other teams during this trade deadline. They've had good players. They just don't have a good team. And I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is ever going to be the best player on a championship team and is ever going to be good enough to carry a team. That was my big issue with this. It wasn't anything like, oh, he's a bum. And no, that I didn't get this trade for either of these teams because I think they're both below average teams before this trade and after this trade.
See, for me, I love this trade for Indiana. I love
Really?
it because, yes, Tyrese
Interesting.
Halliburton, the Sacramento Kings have to be the dumbest franchise. Like, seriously, ownership, sell this team.
Dude, they're trying to make
Sell
a
it.
playoff push. They're trying to make a playoff push.
And do what?
Make the
Do
play.
what?
Sell some tickets.
Oh, gosh. You know what?
They're trying to make a playoff
Congrats.
push,
You
man.
made the play-in as the 10th seed and you get bounced by the Lakers. Congratulations.
If
I
the
hope it
Lakers
was
can
worth
even
it.
get there, man.
No,
Yeah.
they're in the 9th seed right now. So it'll be the 9 and the 10 playing against each other. So as it stands right now, Lakers would be that 9th spot playing for their lives, back-to-back games.
Jeez.
Anyway, the Kings, you have Tyrese Halliburton, who is the way point guards are nowadays, a once in a generation player. He's one of the last breed where he's looking to make the pass. He's looking to make other players better. He's looking to involve the guys around in the offense. I forget what the metrics were, but he's like one of the few guys in the NBA. I think he's somewhere like 11th or 13th in assists,
Mhm.
which pretty good for a 2nd-year player.
No, yeah. His
And-
stats look great. Yeah.
Yeah. he's something that you don't give up in a season and a half. If you're going to move a point guard, you moved De'Aaron Fox. That's who you move. Because
Yeah.
clearly it's not working out in Sacramento with him.
Man,
Tyrese Halliburton's ceiling so high.
Yeah.
And what you get back in return, like we know what Sabonis' ceiling is. He's basically at his ceiling. I don't think he's going to get much better. And just with what you bring him into, he's not going to change the Kings' fortunes that much. It's a move that doesn't make sense. Halliburton has so much potential. He's not going to be a centerpiece, but he's a foundational piece. He could be like in your best 3 players. He's not going to be your best player.
I agree with that. My big thing is with the Pacers.
Dumb move.
The one problem, they need to get lucky in the draft as far as
drafting. The Pacer fans love it. Look at the chat. The Pacer fans love it. I'm telling you, they won that trade.
I understand.
No question.
I understand.
Great trade for the future.
That's great for them. But the big thing with the Pacers is that they need a superstar. They need to hit the lottery kind of like what they did with Paul George. Back when Paul George and LeBron, they were going at each other in the East. Like that was definitely the toughest matchup as far as keeping LeBron out of the championship. Those were incredibly fun series. The Pacers' problem is that no one's going to go to Indiana during free agency. So they have to do everything internally. I love this. I mean, it's a great move. Tyrese Halliburton could be a cornerstone part of this organization. My big thing is by the time you get to the point where you're looking to contend, you have guys, Tyrese Halliburton could be walking out the door. Like, I understand. Like, we have to be real with Indiana. They're not going to have these free agent signings. Like, they're going to pick up nice role players. And I think that they have to go out and in one way or another, get a superstar because that's the only way they're ever going to be relevant again. They haven't been relevant since Paul George left.
Well, they still have some assets that they can move on from. Yeah. I mean, it looks like now they'll probably keep Miles Turner, especially since the deadline passed.
Yeah.
But they have Miles Turner, they have Malcolm Brogdon, they have TJ Warren once he comes back from injury. They have assets that they can move at some point in the future. We'll just have to wait to see what they do this summer. But Tyrese Halliburton is a guy that you could potentially get to. I mean, the guy grew up in Iowa, or he went to school in Iowa. So, I mean, maybe location isn't a huge thing because let's face it. I mean, okay, sure. Where Iowa State's located, it's all right, but it's nothing crazy. It's not a big city. And I mean, Sacramento itself wasn't a crazy city. It just happens to be in California. They'll have him for at least, I believe, the next 2.5 seasons, at least.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, they can match any contract he gets in free agency when he enters restricted free agency. So they could have him for anywhere for the next 2 to 4 seasons and potentially 5. So I'm not too worried about Halliburton sticking around. Who knows? I mean, they just have to be smart with their draft picks and who knows where they can go. I'm just saying it's a great trade. Sacramento Kings fans should be rioting outside their league or outside their.
Well, it seems like they are, and there's a lot of people around the league that are stunned that Halliburton was able to be pried away. Well, a lot of people thought pried away from Sacramento.
I thought he was untouchable. Yeah. Everyone thought he was untouchable.
Exactly. But it's a rough one. But let's move on here to I guess would be another big name that we saw move. We saw CJ McCollum leaving Portland and going to be a New Orleans Pelican. So I don't know about you, man, but when I kind of thought, when I saw this go through, I like this move for New Orleans. I really kind of do. But the problem with the Pelicans is you're banking on the health, obviously, big time of Zion. I mean, obviously, you're hoping that whenever he comes back and picks up right where he left off and continues to push the envelope. Brandon Ingram, to me, is a stud. And it was weird for me to see the Pelicans. I thought they might go in the opposite direction. Like I noticed, or I said in our podcast a couple of weeks ago that I saw Brandon Ingram as maybe a trade, guy out there that could get traded to a contending team because I think he continues to improve and show what he's capable of. But they kind of went the opposite way. They brought in CJ McCollum, and when Zion's healthy, I really like that combination. You got CJ there at the 2, you got Brandon Ingram there at the 3, and Zion down low. And then you kind of mix that in. You got to get some veteran point guards in there, but obviously they're not building to contend this year. This is more of a move for the future. Had to give up Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nickeil Alexander Walker, which I do really like him as a player. Didi Luzada and a future first and 2 future seconds in that trade. Also got Larry Nance and Tony Snell, who hasn't missed a free throw in 3 years. So I don't know what you thought about it, what you thought about this trade, but CJ is a Pelican.
I mostly like this trade, especially with the addition of Larry Nance coming with. Because at first when it was just McCollum, I'm like, oh, that's steep, especially with McCollum's contract and like the value between Josh Hart and McCollum, because Josh Hart's like what on a $12 million deal, something around there. So him at 12 mil versus McCollum at 30 mil, there's the value is about the same in terms of what you're getting for the money you're paying. Because $30 million is a lot. But I like this move because it's kind of a swing for the fences, which I think as a franchise, this is what the Pelicans need to do. And to save his job, this is what David Griffin needs to do. Because Zion might not want to stay in New Orleans. So you have to like show him, all right, we're looking to like put guys around you, guys that are winning players that can be successful to make you successful because we want you to be here. We want this to be your home. We want you to re-sign here, not because of the value you get for your contract, but because you want to play here, you want to win here. So we're going to show that by putting guys around you. And I think McCollum and Nance are players that kind of can show that commitment, especially McCollum. That guy wants to win. He's a winner. I mean, they went as far as they could with him in Portland with Damian Lillard. Obviously, nothing was going to happen this season, so it was the best time to move on. Portland, for their side of things, they've made some crazy trades in the last year. Starting with Gary Trent. Well, that too, but just starting with Gary Trent and then the Norman Powell trade. They've made some signings and trades that I don't know what they're doing. And Damian Lillard's still on the roster. I don't see a world where Lillard suits up as a Portland Trailblazer next season. I mean, there's no way that
he remains committed, man.
I mean,
he's saying he's committed.
But that's what I love about Damian Lillard. He's like an old school player. I loved when the players stuck with the franchises. I also liked when the franchises stuck with the players, but on both sides of the coin, we're just past those days now where you're going to see like 6 or 7 teams on a Hall of Famer's resume on their Basketball Reference after they're all said and done, which is mind boggling me. I hate it, but that's our reality. I can't see them retooling with Dame. I can't see him drawing any interests. For next season. I mean, there's Nurkic is all that's left. It's
sad.
I mean,
well, and for me, Simons
has been showing out, but
Nasir Little's out.
Same position.
Nasir Little's out this season too, so he'll be coming back as well. So now you're kind of banking on Nasir Little, Anthony Simons, obviously Dame and Nurkic, and you're just trying to build around those 4 essentially, which everybody.
I think Nurkic gets moved.
Well, and the thing that sucks is I feel like you had those 4, and then you brought up all the people that you have now traded away in to build around those 4 originally. And now you're just in the same spot that you were, and nothing's changed. And now you're also kind of just tanking for a draft pick now. Now you're just trying to get that draft pick as high as possible.
Well, actually, I think Chicago has one of their draft picks. I don't know what year it might be this year's.
I don't know.
Oh, I really hope it's this year's. I forget. Oh, man. It's going to be a good day if it is. Let me look this. Oh, my phone.
Oh, you're good. So moving on here, this is a trade I wrote down. I wanted to talk about a little bit too. I didn't think a lot of people saw this one coming, but how about the trade that happened today with the Mavericks and the Wizards, man? Kristaps Porzingis is heading to Washington, and Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans is heading to Dallas. Well, did you expect Kristaps? We haven't even heard his name. I didn't think anyone would take him.
You know what's crazy? I heard this trade as a possibility, but almost kind of as a joke.
Yeah.
I listen to Bill Simmons' podcast a lot, and it was on one of his podcasts. He had one of his friends who's a big Wizards fan on, and they were talking about like potential trades, and then the trade for like Dragic going to Dallas came up, and then there was even talk of sending Porzingis to Washington that they were talking about.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the one trade no one thought that would happen that they predicted as a joke actually happened. It's insane. I saw this. I'm like, no way. First of all, what are the Mavericks doing? They've been playing so well lately. I get Porzingis and Luka aren't a perfect fit.
I'm okay with this for Dallas, dude.
But they're not. Their package in return.
Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie.
Trust me, I like Spencer Dinwiddie.
At this point, Davis Bertans can give you 75% of what Kristaps
That guy
is giving.
sucks.
That's what
Bertans
tells
is
you
bad.
that tells you what I think about Kristaps Porzingis.
I would
I saw a
Kristaps
joke.
Porzingis 10 times over.
So when Porzingis came to the league, everybody called him a unicorn, and I wish I could give credit to who I saw. He's called a unicorn because you never see him. You never see him play. What's the point? Like that's what he is. Kristaps Porzingis, all we've ever heard about is what he's capable of doing, what he should be doing. He's 7'3". He can dribble like that. He can shoot like that. Dude never plays. And Luka's like, bro, I need someone here to help me. Now all of a sudden Luka is playing like MVP Luka. I think Spencer Dinwiddie comes in and helps a lot into this Mavericks roster. And I know we haven't talked about it yet, but the whole trade for, Goran Dragic, who's expected to be a buyout. He got traded to the Spurs today from the Raptors. He's going to sign with the Mavericks. That's pretty much already been said and done.
So your 4 best players are going to be point guards?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've seen this movie before.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I like
that movie was at the center of the craziest trade deadline in NBA history.
I really like what Dallas did this time, man. I really do, because I think Kristaps, to get away from Kristaps, to me is a slam dunk. I really liked when the Knicks were able to get away from Kristaps. I think his value is just going to continue to plummet, and the quicker you can get him out of your locker room, the better. That's, to me, the biggest part of this deal. And, you get to bring home Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, I really like that.
I'm also really interested to see what the Wizards are doing, because, I mean, they moved Harrell too, which great pickup for the Hornets for what they had to give up. It was only
Vernon Carey and Ish Smith. Yeah.
I think this is Ish Smith's 3rd time on the Wizards in his career.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But that's a great trade, because that makes that team more dangerous offensively. So I really like that trade for the Hornets.
The Hornets needed a big man. I wanted them to go get Miles Turner. Now that we saw, obviously, Miles Turner wasn't on the move. That was kind of the trade destination, the trade target that I kind of picked out for them. But they went and they got their need. Montrezl Harrell is really going to help the Hornets, and I think they're going to be I thought they were going to be a playoff team before the season.
What's Washington doing?
No, they're punting straight up. Are they
going to try to package Beal and Porzingis as like their next thing? Like what?
I have no clue. Beal, for some reason, just like Dame, remains committed. And almost in my mind, his commitment to Washington is even worse than Dame's unwillingness to leave Portland. Like, I just can't get why Bradley Beal wouldn't want to go he would be, God, I don't even know. There's so many teams that would love a Bradley Beal as their number 2 guy.
Laker fans want him.
Oh, I know.
Laker fans want everybody. They'd take the whole NBA if they could.
Dude, we don't have to talk about the Lakers. This is just a sad day for Lakers, man.
No, I'm gonna follow campaign's advice and stop talking about the Lakers.
That was a rough day, man. Everybody was never mind.
Oh man, I love it. I don't hate the Lakers. I just hate LeBron being with the Lakers. So therefore, and Anthony, I don't like it Davis either.
Okay, I wasn't gonna get dragged into it, but I'm gonna get dragged into it a little bit.
Oh no, I started something.
It's a quick one. I saw something. I think it was Brian Windhorst posted it, and said that the Knicks and the Lakers were in advanced talks yesterday until the trade fell through. And in my mind, that trade probably was going to be a Russell Westbrook for Kemba, maybe Evan Fournier, and maybe like an Alec Burke, maybe type deal. And if it's true, and obviously I'm not an NBA insider, but if it's true that trade fell through because the Lakers wouldn't give up their 2027 first round pick, like 2027 first round pick for who is some kid who's currently a 13-year-old. Like, if that's true, Rob Pelinka deserves to be fired. Like,
well, you know what's funny? I saw reports that he was at Disneyland or whatever,
Pelinka?
whichever one is in
Disney
California.
World
I saw on Twitter, like
Pelinka
people were
was.
like taking pictures and reporting sightings of him
That's
during
nice.
the deadline.
That's real nice. That's real nice to see, man. In no way do I think Kemba and Fournier and Burke would have fixed the Lakers, but it's better. I mean, it's
a lot better.
At least it's an attempt to try to fix something. And the fact that they stood pat, and if that was the reason, I don't know what the actual reason was. Maybe it was they would also have to give up like THT and someone else was, God forbid, you have to give up Talon Horton Tucker because, he's an all-star. No, he's not. But Like if that's the reason why this trade fell through, then
They
Rob
tried to
Blinken
package him like one.
he deserves to be gone, man. That was a rough
Oh
one.
man. Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm almost kind of disappointed my prediction did not come true. I was predicting this Lakers team to be like the 2018 Cavs, except this is worse. Way
Yeah.
worse than 2018 Cavs. And on top of that, they made no changes. There's no trades to be
No,
made.
nothing. They didn't make a
Unless they
single trade.
can master manipulate the buyout market, which I'm doubting. Who wants to go there? Who's going to
Yeah.
want to sign with LA? Which, oh, for the love of God, Toronto Raptors and Philadelphia 76ers, I'm speaking to you. Buy out Thad Young and Paul Millsap, or do rock, paper, scissors. We only need one of them.
Oh god.
Like you guys, whoever loses can buy out one of their guys, because we would like to have one of them in Chicago. We'd appreciate that. We would appreciate that
Wait,
sincerely.
which you said Thad Young and who? Who's the other one?
Paul Millsap.
Paul Millsap. Okay.
Because it was sounding like I was hoping the Nets were going to buy out Millsap.
Yeah. But now he
before
got
the Harden
traded.
trade,
Yeah.
and then he got traded. And I don't see Phil, especially when Philly gave up a lot, especially like size. Where Millsap's undersized for a power forward, but like he's big, so
He's got experience,
It's like
yeah.
lateral size, we'll call it.
I could see Andre Drummond being a buyout. You might get Drummond
Nah,
then.
I think
You
actually I would like Drummond.
you think the Nets really need his size? Like I don't think he's a huge part of their
I do
plans.
I don't think the Nets can afford to get rid of any players with NBA experience. I
Yeah,
don't
you're not
think
kidding.
I don't think that bench can afford. I think anyone that's sniffed an all-star selection
Yeah.
is very valuable to their team. Doesn't matter if it was in 2006 or 2016. I think they're keeping everyone they bring in from the deadline.
Dude, I wanna talk about a trade that kind of went a little under the radar that I really like. It was the big 4-team trade. And I know it took a lot. Everybody's like, where's everybody going?
Team?
It was Pistons, Clippers, Bucks, and Kings.
Yes.
And who I love this trade for is Detroit. And I know it's
Yes.
strange. Marvin Bagley
Yes.
with Cade Cunningham moving forward. I think if you're Marvin Bagley, you got to be like, listen, start of my career has not been great since being a lottery pick, going to Sacramento. Everybody hates going to Sacramento. Now he's got to look at it as, okay, I got a fresh start. I got a chance to develop. Detroit, I'm sure Detroit looks at him as a big part of their future. They want to pair him with Cade. Marvin Bagley, I think his upside, if he continues to go and get minutes and get solid play, he could be a very solid to upper tier power forwards in this league. I think Marvin Bagley is a very talented player all the way back to his Duke days. And I love pairing him with Cade. Love that.
I think the potential's there. I think he still has some. He definitely was a player that was in desperate need of a fresh start. We've been saying this before the season started, especially when he somehow fell out of the rotation in Sacramento. And especially after the Sabonis trade, I'm like, oh man, he's buried again. Like he's buried even more.
They freed him.
I'm glad that he's on another team. Maybe he can resurrect what warranted him being drafted ahead of guys like Luka and Trae Young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Pistons could potentially be a scary team in a couple of years. I mean, the East got exponentially better, in my opinion, over the last week in terms of the trades that fell their way. And as a Bulls fan, I'm a little worried over the next couple of years. You should be worried too with the Heat. I mean,
I'm not worried.
We have some smaller championship windows. Butler's getting up there in age. DeRozan's getting up there in age.
I'll tell you why I'm not
getting up there in age.
So I know the Bulls didn't make any moves.
No, we didn't.
Miami did make one. A lot of people probably don't even know that it happened because it was so small, but I paid attention. Miami traded KZ Okpala to OKC for a 2026 second round draft pick. So job, Pat Riley. This was not a move for a 2026 second round pick. This was a move to free up a roster spot. They're definitely going to be involved in the buyout market.
Oh, yes.
When you start to look around, there's going to be a good amount of buyout candidates. I don't really know, obviously, at this point, which one I feel would be the best fill for Miami. But when you're looking at Miami, there's not like a glaring need on that roster. There's not like, oh, they need another wing defender or they're screwed. They need another shooter or they're screwed. They need a big man. Like, they got a good mix of all those guys.
Very balanced roster.
They kind of get to look around and just kind of look at the list of when guys start to get bought out and listen and be like, hey, which guy do we want? We got this open roster spot. And I think you can go to a lot of these guys, but hey, listen, right now we're the number one team in the East. We're up there in record. We got a good mix of young guys. We got a good mix of veterans. We've been to the championship just a few years ago. Come here and let's run it. Like, I think they have a good selling point. Obviously, being in Miami doesn't hurt. You know, everybody loves to come to Miami. But
Those
I
beaches
think
are an easy sell.
yeah, it was a small move. Not a lot of people really paid attention to it. And I like KZ Akbal. I think he's a good player. I think he could be a solid rotation player for a lot of teams. With Miami, he's buried. There's not room for him. He's a very young player, and he hasn't really taken that step up. And I think a lot of it is just lack of opportunity.
I also think that move had a little bit to do with the luxury tax, I believe, too.
Yeah.
So the very, very, very. I mean, Pat Riley's a genius. Let's just be honest here. So he's looking out for ownership, and he's looking out for potential opportunities in future to improve the roster. Like, this man's a wizard.
He knows what he's doing. And another trade that I like too, and it sucks because the trade that I like it for is for Boston Celtics, which everybody knows I'm not a big Boston Celtics fan, but they picked up Derek White from the Spurs. I thought that was a really good pickup for them. Had to give up Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, and a first-round pick. But Derek White, I think a lot of these players we don't look at with the Spurs and think we think the Spurs aren't that good and don't have a lot of good players. When we start to go through that roster, you're like, man, they got a lot of high-quality players on this roster. I mean, obviously, everybody knows they're at the top. DeJounte Murray. Everybody knows, oh, my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson's had a really good year as well. Derek White's had a really good year as well. So I like this pickup for Boston, even though I'm not a big fan of Boston. I still don't think it changes anything in the East, though.
Yeah, it definitely helps them. And somehow, some way, Marcus Smart survived another trade deadline.
Yeah, continues to live on,
longest
especially with that
tenured Celtic.
contract too, man.
Yeah, it's so weird for me that Smart's the longest tenured Celtic, and like, as I hear Boston fans talk about them, like, oh, he's been with the team for so long, and I have to like look back at a calendar and be like, oh, 2014 was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
To me, like, I'm still so used to like that 2014 draft class being so new.
Yeah, and we're like, no,
It's
they're
not.
8-year vets now. Like, they're 7-8 year vets.
I am not used to it. I don't think I'll ever be used to it.
Well, I mean, we obviously know this, but think about LeBron and Carmelo were drafted in 2003. Like, it was 19 years ago. Like,
you gotta stop, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
That's
LeBron,
19 years ago.
on a
I was
technicality
6.
based on where he was drafted, LeBron is. I don't think there's anyone with a longer NBA tenure than LeBron James right now. Oh no, he's the longest.
It is Haslam's not.
Haslam
OG?
was part of the 02 draft, went undrafted, and then got his first playing time in 2003.
Oh,
with
so
the
he's
Miami
the
Heat.
same technically.
Yeah, so technically
Okay.
he's the same rookie class as
OG.
Melo and LeBron.
Yeah.
But I think it only goes back as far back as the
03 now.
2003-04 NBA season, which is
Yeah.
crazy, especially considering Vince Carter only ducked out of the league like a year or two ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Let's not forget about OG, man. Udonis Haslam, man. Don't
Oh,
forget
no,
about him.
I wasn't forgetting about him because
His whole
technically
career.
LeBron was on a team before he was.
His whole career with Miami Heat.
Yeah,
Legend.
I want to see more. I want to see Randman. Like, the only comparison I could have think about would have been like, well, I mean, you could compare Nick Collison to that. Obviously, Collison didn't play as long, but
Yeah.
03 draft class, played with Sonic/Thunder his entire career. That would have been like if Taj Gibson was still on the Bulls now. It'd be like that kind of player.
Yeah.
Like, was a pretty good man off the bench in his prime, and then just became a savvy
Fizzled
veteran
quick,
the rest
yeah.
of his career.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say fizzle quick. Maybe Haslam a little bit. Gibson somehow still finding minutes with the Knicks, which hats off to him. I love Gibson for that. But it would have been like if Gibson stayed with the Bulls his entire career.
My favorite games of Miami too is when there's a couple guys that get in early foul trouble or there's a couple injuries, and all of a sudden we're seeing Udonis Haslam, the second or third guy off the bench, just comes in, gets like 3 fouls, plays like 8 minutes, and gets you like 6 boards. You're like, that's Haslam, man. SUD.
Oh, I hope he comes back.
Every year it seems like, I mean, just keep signing 1-year deals.
I
for
thought
the-
he
for
was
the
going to retire
minimum.
3 seasons ago.
Just keep bringing him back, man. I mean, he's a coach. He's a coach.
Oh, yeah.
He's
He's basically what Tree Rollins was like for the 95 Magic,
no.
or Paul Pressey for one of those early 90s Warrior teams. Total coach.
Another one we didn't talk about too, but the Celtics picked up Daniel Tice as well. Had to give up Dennis Schroeder. Inez Freedom and Bruno Fernando, which Inez is going to be.
I didn't see Bruno went to the
Yeah,
Rockets.
Bruno
I missed that
Fernando was
part.
part of that deal as well. So Inez Freedom, I think he's going to be a buyout candidate.
They waived him.
They already did. Yeah. So he's already been
Yeah.
waived by the Rockets. But yeah, the Celtics bringing back Daniel Tice. So they made a couple additions. They brought in a big man and brought in a point guard because all of a sudden they are one of the hottest teams in the Eastern Conference. They're trying to make a little run here. I mean, what's the point? Just to
I know
lose in the
some
first
Boston
round.
fans that probably won't like that trade too much. Like,
Yeah.
why did we get Tice back? Why did the Rockets sign Tice? That's what I didn't understand, but they did.
Yeah.
It's like a 2 or 3 year contract too. I don't know.
Uh,
Tice would have been a player would have loved on the Bulls this
Yeah.
season. I was a little upset, but we had to let him go to afford the team we have now. But what you gonna do?
Oh man, we went through a bunch of these. I mean, there's a few other ones, obviously, with some smaller players on there. I like Nickeil Alexander-Walker has actually ended up on Utah because he got immediately traded as part of a 3-team trade. How about Joe Ingles leaving Utah? I know that was sad to see. He's technically on the Portland Trailblazers now.
I won't
mean-
be surprised if they re-sign him this summer. I could see it.
And I think he said even in a statement where he said, if it came to the point where they could get something for me, he would take it with a grain of salt and he'd be okay with it just to try to help the Jazz organization. So that wouldn't surprise me if Joe Ingles is back in Utah and just basically we never see him play in another uniform.
I'll put money on it.
You put money on that? Well, I like that move for Utah. And I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to be a nice man in their rotation. I think Utah really used a nice little, bump of youth that he gives them. He's really turned into a nice player. Also picked up Hernan Gomez too from the Spurs in that trade as well.
Uh-huh.
So Utah's loading up a little bit. Golden State stayed back over there in the East.
I wouldn't have made a move.
Yeah, the Suns picked up Torrey Craig, and they
Great move.
Also picked up Aaron Holiday from the Wizards. So a couple nice role play. I really like the Torrey Craig move. Only had to give up Jalen Smith and a future second rounder. So I like that for them. But as far as the top teams, I mean, the Bucks, they gave up a little bit. They gave up Dante DiVincenzo, Rodney Hood, and Semi Ojeleye. That was in that 4-team trade. They did bring in Serge Ibaka, 2 future second rounders, and some cash. But
I think that's getting ready for the buyout market move.
Yeah,
because that opened up 2 roster spots.
Yeah, they'll be active in there too. Serge Ibaka, he's definitely not the player that he used to be, but he provides a little bit of length, a little bit of athleticism, what he still kind of has left in the tank. And the
that
Bucks
move concerns me for the Bulls.
For the Bulls, yeah, he's a good matchup against.
He adds a lot of size for them, which especially without Brook Lopez.
Yeah, true. But yeah, man, that's pretty much, we kind of ran through all of the trades there, kind of gave our thoughts on everything. And no, it was an interesting trade deadline. I know obviously it was highlighted there by the James Harden and Ben Simmons, who's finally out of Philadelphia. I was happy to see. Maybe we'll actually see him on the court, which I don't know. This just popped in my head. Is Ben Simmons vaccinated? Because otherwise we're going to be in the same situation as Kyrie. Did anybody ask that question before the trade?
I'm pretty sure he is, because he was doing team activities.
I was just curious. I would just thought that would have been the funniest thing in the world, where all of a sudden he's only playing the same games.
Oh, could you imagine if that came out?
Oh my, that would have been the funniest thing ever. But no, I'm assuming they did their homework on that one.
I would feel so bad for KD, but that'd be like the greatest. That'd be the greatest.
Poor KD, man. I've been labeled as a KD hater, but I've come to his defense a lot this year, where he's just carrying
He's
average.
a trooper.
He really is. And I think he should leave. I wouldn't want to deal with that dysfunction.
Well, he can. He signed an extension.
I know, but now you're sitting there dealing with Kyrie and Ben Simmons. Talk about a headache, man.
I could see a world where Ben Simmons mellows out and goes back to kind of like before everyone hated him in terms of just.
I get that, but he still won't shoot a jump shot. That's a problem for me.
Honestly, I'm gonna make a bold prediction. I think this Brooklyn Ben Simmons might surprise everybody.
Man, all I know is Kevin Durant left Klay Thompson and Steph Curry for Kyrie Irving and now Ben Simmons. And to me, that's
wanted to do it on his own.
You made a mistake, man. And he brought in DeAndre Jordan, who where is DeAndre Jordan right now? Is he still on the Lakers? He is on the Lakers.
He's on the Lakers, but basically that essentially made Jared Allen expendable, and Jared Allen was basically an all-star now.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, that the Nets have shot themselves in the foot several times trying to appeal to their star players.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man, I believe that's all we got. This was a fun little breakdown here of the trade deadline. We're going to put this up as a special episode coming out as soon as possible. So just want to thank you guys all for joining us, following along for what's been a crazy trade deadline and what will probably be a crazy rest of the season. So thank you all for joining us. Yeah,
this is the fun stretch after the
I
All-Star
know.
break.
Now everything gets real,
Here we
man.
go.
Shut it down for the All-Star break. Everything gets real, and then it's a sprint to the playoffs, and then the real fun starts. So thank you all for joining us. Be sure to follow us along for more NBA content at TM Up Pod. We'll be sure to catch you guys later.